And without further ado, let's talk about what's in store for you guys today. So we have three big things to talk about. First of all, we will talk about distribution of AI system called DP. Second, we will talk about what we've shipped in our library in the last release, which we shipped a week ago. And then we will talk about the stuff that we are building for the next version. Luke, welcome. So, speaking of distribution, speaking of the distribution thing, in the beginning, we promised when we announced DeepPavlov Dream, we promised that we will open source our AI assistant, and we will make it available to all of you. However, we are also participating in Alexa Prize 2020. And while this is fantastic news for all of us, we also have an obligation that we cannot ship, not just ship, we cannot, how to put it? We cannot share our demo of Dream 1.0 with you during the duration of the entire challenge. So instead of that, we decided that we will ship DP3000, the demo of a small moon-based AI system that we showcased a few times ago, like on conferences like GTC NVIDIA or MLConf EU and ODC West, and we will put into our demo.deepavlov.ai, and we also will continue development of the distribution in the open. So you will be able to experiment with the same stuff that will be running on our servers. And as we will continue adding components to DP3000, you will be able to grab them and reuse them in your own work. We're also working with a number of different customers. And as we continue working with them, some of the components of the original Dream is something that they want to play with, and we will also publish those components to this upcoming repository so that you could also pick those components up and reuse them in your products. So in this way, our customers and you folks will be able together to help us direct what kind of things we have to share first with you. What's going to happen in the repository? In the beginning, it will have our Go board-based, goal-oriented skill, maybe one, maybe several. This will depend on the speed at which we will continue development. And we will also have a number of annotators, like just today we shipped a sentence segmentation annotator in the public, one of the public branches of DP Dream demo repository on our GitHub. And there's a lot of different other things that we have in store for you folks, like factoid, skill, and so on. That's a big thing. And if you have something you want from us to be shipped and to be provided to you, you can always contact us through GitHub or through Twitter or through our forum at forum.deepavlov.ai, and we'll be happy to bring new stuff to the system. Now let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the product side. So one of the things we learned from the industry is we cannot work alone, and instead of trying to develop one more incompatible format like in that old classic XKCD mem, as you know, we decided to support raster configs for defining goal-oriented skills. And today we are proud to announce that we have initial support for Hugging Face datasets. And I'm very happy to give venue to Yuri Kuratov, who is someone who can tell you more about Hugging Face dataset support. And just to give you some high-level picture of things, this is not the end of what we're gonna build with Hugging Face. We will also support running some of their models in the upcoming version of the library. And there's a lot of more stuff happening. So we are doing everything we can to help you guys to grab available components from all over the web and bring them into your pipelines inside DeepPavlov Library and DeepPavlov Dream and reuse it in your products. Now, Yuri, I will show you next slide, and you feel free to talk and give high-level perspective on what you're doing with data sets from Hugging Face.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, in the latest DeepPavlov release, we have added support of Hugging Face datasets. As you know, Hugging Face are famous for their Transformers library, and recently they also created Hugging Face datasets, which is a library for datasets sharing. They already have more than 180 datasets like Glue Benchmark, Superglue, VMT, Wikipedia, Reddit, and a lot more. As DeepPavlov dataset readers, Hugging Face datasets take a responsibility of downloading and storing the data. They also have interactive viewer of available datasets online. This is how, on the bottom of the slide, you can see that how the viewer for the dataset Microsoft Research Paraphrase corpus looks like. Also, this dataset is a part of the Glue benchmark. This dataset contains pairs of sentences which have been extracted from used sources on the web and are annotated whether pair of sentences has a similar meaning, which means also easy to paraphrase or not. To use this dataset in DeepPavlov, we should next slide, Daniel. To use this dataset in DeepPavlov, we should add a dataset reader and dataset iterator components to configuration file and specify several fields. Next slide. For dataset reader, we should set a dataset path, dataset name, and the names of train, validation, and test splits. They may differ for different datasets. Dataset iterator extracts features and labels from the data sample. In this case, we take sentence 1 and sentence 2 as features and say that we use field named label as our labels. Basically, that's all what you have to do in DeepPavlov to integrate Hugging Face datasets. We have more examples for Glue benchmark datasets by the link on the bottom of this slide. And yeah, that is. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really lovely. And as I said before, not only you will be able to use these data sets, the libraries available right now, but you will also be able in the future to use our the models from Hugging Face as well. So that's, from my perspective, that's really, really cool. Yuri, thank you very much for sharing this update. Some people might feel that using different components together, gluing them together is their job, but that's not. It's the job of the libraries. And I'm very, very proud of this update to our library. Let's move on. What's next? Gabot updates in the version of 0.13.0. So in short, there's two ways. It's I can talk about that stuff, or Oleg can talk about it. Oleg, would you want to talk about your stuff?
Well, yes, I just committed the stuff that we have here on the slide.
Just take a moment, Oleg, just for a second.
Yep.
Right now we are talking what we shipped, not what we're building, but what we've shipped.
Oh, okay.
So we can give just high level overview of what's happening and so on.
Okay, so Well, in DeepPavlov 0.13, we just released a really cool tutorial on how you can build a goal-oriented system on top of Daniel. Something. Oh, thanks. Well, we just released a really cool tutorial on how you can build a goal-oriented system on top of the goal-oriented bot. I mean, not just a Jupyter notebook or something like that, but we just made a tutorial on how you can build the whole system on top, using the DP agent and so on. And so you are training the goal-oriented bot, you are wrapping it into a Python script, and you're like using this as an DP agent API. And well, I probably could show both the Jupyter notebook on how we can train a goal-oriented bot. This is the story behind the DP, our story we are building on our public calls. So I can share. Well, I can show the notebook on how you can train the goal-oriented bot behind the DP, and how you can wrap it into a DP agent, and how you can use it. Well, sure.
I think I can show the tutorial itself, just the page. Give me a moment, and should be somewhere around. So what you can do is you can go to Doug's DeepPavlov.ai, DeepPavlov.ai, yeah, that room, and we have the preview version of our documentation, Docs preview. That's not the only way to get to the tutorial, mind you, but here we can go to Gabot. By the way, we are going to update the documentation for our DeepPavlov Library and other products, so stay tuned for that stuff as well. But I think this will happen after December, in the next year, in early next year. So here we have a link to the blog, to 2 tutorials. That's the original documentation, that's the documentation, and we have a original tutorial notebook that we showcased you like a couple months ago, and this is updated one. Oleg?
Yep. Well, I would probably request the control of your screen.
Yeah, give it a moment, and I will give it. Yeah, excellent.
Thanks. And I'm waiting for a page to load.
This is not under my control. This is under control of my internet service provider. Okay.
Okay, so the stuff we have here is like, well, this is the page that shows you how to train a goal-oriented bot, and well, this is a goal-oriented bot behind the DP. So I will just run all the cells and well, quickly scroll through them, and well, I'll give some notion on what's going on here. So well, requirements is probably boring, so I won't stay long for now. What is important, well, what really is important is since DeepPavlov 0.13, you can just rely onto your Rasa style configuration files to train the whole goal-oriented bot pipeline. You don't need the redundant like slot filling information stuff and well, intense classification stuff described in some other configs. All that you need is just to have stories, domain email, and like an LUMD as well, an LU file as like you have to use when you're building the Rasa bot. And these 3 files are just enough to train your goal-oriented system. So here we have a stories MD, and it is about how you can train your bot to, well, this file is about how you describe what's going on when user interacts with your bot. So so the user probably asks for the status of some stuff, and the bot should respond with, well, the bot should probably respond, okay, so, well, this demo is about DP, and it was about harvesters status, these like moon-based harvesters, and well, user is probably asking what's going on with all the stuff, with all the harvesters, and the system has to respond properly, and you just can then ask it for some harvester, some particular harvester, for example, for the status of the harvester number 4, and the system has to detect the number of the harvester you're talking about. And well, what's interesting here is, well, if you are talking about this some particular harvester, you actually are doing some slots, you're actually providing some slots information. So probably, well, for example, I'm asking the system, what is the status of the harvester 4? So 4 here is a slot. It is, and well, it is a piece of information that is extremely important for the system to work properly. And so the goal-oriented bot has to detect that you have mentioned this particular slot and its proper value. And well, but here is just the story. So you're telling the bot that you are interested in rovers, and the system has to respond properly. But the slot filling information I just mentioned is, well, is the bot learns to perform slot filling on top of the NLU-MD files, and that's what I have now on the screen. And what I'm talking about is like what is the harvester 0 status is just the line in your NLU file and in your NLU configuration file, and you are here mentioning that you're interested in a particular harvester, and it has a number, and its number is 0. And well, the goal-oriented bot now is able to learn slot filling on top of these configuration files, and and then it just works. I'm probably a bit slow because I'm waiting for a system to train, and hopefully we'll have it in we'll have it train it in a couple of minutes. But what I see here is just what we all see here is just another NLU-MD file, and it lists the stuff that the system uses to understand what Daniel or what user is saying to the system. So it learns to understand which intent the user has on top of this file. And then, like,
to me, I mean, anybody can talk to the system, obviously.
Yeah, of course. You're just the big fan of like this moon-based stuff. That's why I occasionally mentioned you. Well, okay, so let's go further, and we have a domain YAML, and it hasn't changed a lot, but we now have this slots section here, and it is about how you, well, it just lists the slots that are used in your pipeline, in your NLU, and well, you could provide the slot type here to give to a system a notion of what the slot could probably look like. And we don't, well, right now we don't have another changes here. So these 3 files are just enough to train the model. Earlier you had to use another configuration to train your slot filler. So let's scroll below. I see that the page is still having a gray label, so something is training now. And well, I'll just open these cells and try to understand.
What's important here is we have 3 different components here, and each of them is training one after another. So we have to train slot fillers, and we have to train intent classifier, which is happening right now. And after that, we will have to train our dialog state tracking manager as well, which we call GoBot as well, which is quite funny if you think of it. And after that, you can talk to GoBot here, and then you can integrate it into your system. It is worth mentioning that there is a small bug of sorts here. We worked with Alexei, who is also here with us today, I believe. There's a small bug that we are working to fix, so stay tuned. And
the small bug is that it doesn't work currently.
No. It works. The problem is that intent catcher has to be configured a little bit differently for your scenario to work. Alexei, we looked into it. So it wasn't the problem with the Go bot itself. It was a problem with intent classifier. We had to change patient's parameter for intent classifier. We didn't. I'm not sure if I shared the link with you. What have to be changed? What has to be changed? But I think Oleg can show where you can change it.
Yeah, sure. Well, the stuff that you have to change is just like is the one I'm just highlighting with my cursor, but I'll wait for the bot to train to finally.
No, a little bit earlier. I believe the story with validation patients, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, to show to show how to fix the stuff, I just have to wait till the bot will finish to train.
That's true.
And it will probably take just, just. Oh, didn't hear you.
I think it's about it. It's for coming closer and closer.
Well, yeah, but has a really nice accuracy.
Yes, and that's the point. So, Alexei, just to clarify, the accuracy levels were not really high, and after changing just one parameter in the system, we were able to get much better quality of intent classifier. So it was a problem of intent classifier, and it was really fixable. Give a sec. Yep. The cursor is yours again, Oleg.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just.
Yeah, the most challenging thing is you look at the code, you know that it's running, and you cannot do anything to let it run faster while the time is running out and some nuclear plant is going to go havoc. I'm kidding. Okay, let's do the following. I mean, how long we will have to wait? Like minutes or two? I don't know.
Well, I think we have to wait just a minute or a couple of them, but it just train it and just now performs the final validation step. So right. I could probably right now show the wrapper that you have to use.
Yeah, let me do it. Let me open the wrapper for you. And so look, folks, there is our DP Dream demos repository on our GitHub. And in that repository, you can get a very simplified version of our DP demo. It is very clean. The only thing you have on it is just one goal-oriented skill, and it contains the same harvester's maintenance skill as the one we showcased last community call, as you can see. This tutorial, when it will finish its work, at some point it will copy the entire content created by the script, by this tutorial, into a tar archive. And then you will have to unpack it into this location and overwrite files in dp minimal demo dir. Then you have to rerun docker compose build for this skill and run it again. And here in server.py, there is a wrappers, and I'm pretty sure Alec will be happy to talk about.
Yeah,
sure. You have control again.
Okay, thanks. So, well, first of all, I would like to come back to the whole system to check whether it is trained or not. And well, it is. Okay, so we'll come back here a bit later. So how do you wrap your goal-oriented bot into a DP agent pipeline? Well, actually, DP agent is built as a bunch of API endpoints. So you have to add a goal-oriented bot as another API endpoint, and there are lots of ways to do this, but I think the the simplest one is just to build a simple Flask applications. And that's what we are doing here. So we are just building a Flask application, and below is the stuff needed to run it. Well, I'll probably scroll. Yep. So you just have to run a Flask application, and that's a boilerplate. So I'll just scroll a bit, and well, that's a Flask application. Its purpose is to serve an API, and I have two API endpoints here. Which, well, the first one is reset, and it is a bit boring. It just does reset. I'll outline it a bit later. And the thing is interesting here is the response endpoint, and what it does is it just wraps your goal-oriented stuff into an endpoint. So you're using your goal-oriented bot here. Well, in the line, like, well, in the lines 215 to 216, you have the actual usage of goal-oriented bots. And well, how do you do this? You'll probably need the response from your goal-oriented bot. You'll probably need to wrap your system's response into some sort of template, well, just to convert the action class, the slots you are willing to inform the user with. You have to just convert it into a natural language, and that's what you're doing here. And you will probably be interested in intents that the system has identified, and that's probably what Alexei is interested in. And well, so but basically you're just willing to use two things. First of all, you want your system to respond something, and then you want to convert this response into a natural language. And how you do this is you just, well, you're asking your goal-oriented system to provide you a response. And another thing you probably are interested in is a confidence of the system in your response. So if you're orchestrating multiple skills, you'll probably rely on these confidences to choose whether this or another skill have to respond right now. So we'll take confidences and responses from the system, and we'll convert it into a natural language. And let's scroll up a bit and take a look into how this is accomplished. Yep, here we probably are. Yep, here we are. So first of all, how you're just wrapping your DeepPavlov goal-oriented bot component into something that is easy to be called. You're just, well, that's just a bit boilerplate probably too, but what you're doing here is you're just feeding your DeepPavlov goal-oriented bot. Well, this self.go bot is just the component built in a similar manner that we just did in our notebook. So here I'm using build model, and in the notebook I'm using train model, and both of them, they are returning the same object. So would you please scroll a bit faster? Yep. Well, so this is the same bot as I'm seeing here is shown just in the server.py we are just inspecting. And you're just taking this model that you have trained. Well, you probably have trained it, or you just took it from somewhere, and you're just using this as a regular DeepPavlov component. And well, it provides you with responses, and you could actually take both response classes from this, and you can also take probabilities that your model, which was used to choose the proper action, well, it was choosing these actions, and well, it was confident somehow in these actions. So you can just take these probabilities as confidences, and you can use all this stuff to return to the overall system, to the wrapping system. And well, Alexei, the stuff you probably was interested in is how do you get the intent class from your, well, how do you get the intent that the goal-oriented bot identified for your user utterance? And well,
that's what we wanted to check, because we had a problem, so we wanted to check it here.
Yeah, and well, this is a bit ugly stuff that I will probably, well, I hopefully will soon made a bit more like elegant is just, well, to actually to know which intent your goal-oriented system has, you could just take the NOU manager from your goal-oriented bot, and it is able to show you the natural language understanding information about the stuff you just had fed your goal-oriented bot with. So well, let's just copy paste this and take a look onto how does this work. So we have a trained goal-oriented bot that we are using in our server.py, but let's just, as we have it like in a notebook here, we would probably experiment a bit. After all, that's probably the purpose of our call. So let's feed it with some information on. Well, if you are feeding your NOU manager with some texts, you can, let's do this. You can take the information about intents, about slots that weren't identified in your utterance that user provided you with, and well, and also some other natural language understanding stuff. So to know which intent does user actually have is just, well, you just have to access the property called intents of the response of your NOU system. And here we, well, are we?
Yep, there's a readable.
Well, this is the, yeah, this is the array, and
By the way, this array lacks
Probably confidences.
labels.
yeah,
Confidence without labels.
these are in, well, yeah, these are the confidences for the intents that goal oriented.
So you have roughly the same number of intents, I remember.
It didn't actually hear you.
We have the same number of intents as the number is in this array, so it's
Yeah, of course.
The status of all harvesters. How do I type it?
Harvesters. Right. That's correct.
Well, yeah, and it is confident in the intent with number 2, and well, actually, what I'm.
you can just scroll up, look at the intents file NLU, and it will
Oh
be.
yeah, probably. Well, I mean.
And we'll see what it is of number 2 intent.
Yeah, sure. I forgot why this isn't shown here, but that's probably I forgot something. Well, actually, I know what I could do, but that will be a bit.
Some time. Okay, it's
Okay.
not a problem. Not a problem. Okay.
I mean, well, to map these probabilities onto the actual intents, you have to access the private field of the NOU module, and it stores intents as an array. So you could you could map your intents and these probabilities one onto another. And I'm just waiting. Hey Alexa, I'm just waiting for the connection to allow me to come back to the code I was writing. Okay, here I am. So if you're, am I?
Yes, you're in the right place. You just need to
Okay, so well, the connection was a bit slow, probably.
The intents.
Yeah, so and you have the intents property in the NLU manager, and if you access this, you will access the list
Of intents themselves, and then with an NLU method you can also obtain the probabilities for identified intents for a given user utterance or user sentence.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So
okay, Oleg, if you don't mind, let me interrupt you a little bit for a little bit and
sure,
move forward with the next part of the talk, and then we can come back to the form filling thing. Okay.
oh yeah, sure. Should I retract your screen?
Give a sec. Board control. Okay, I have control of the system once again, so no big deal. Okay, let's move forward. So all in all, you have this tutorial, you have this branch and Gabot done, and we will also make that small update to the tutorial, which will show you how you can change the way intent classifier is trained to tune it to get better identification of your intent. And we will update this thing, I think, in a couple of hours or something like that. I mean, it might happen faster, but we still are in the conf call. Speaking of other improvements in the library, we might see a lot more things. So we promised that we will separate or componentize our QBQA into three separate components, where QBQA will be one model, entity linking will be another one, and the third one will be wiki parser. So we actually shipped it in the library, but we didn't ship the configs. So I have to say that they will be available for you in the next version of the library, but in fact, in the next version of the library, we'll just add the missing config files and add them to the documentation. But anyway, there was a small bug in QBQA online, and we fixed that bug and shipped fixes in the system as well. Another big thing that we did not promise you in our roadmap for this year, but we actually shipped it, is support for Prometheus. So with Prometheus, you will be able to work with something that Sam will say with Smile, metrics. Just to give a very small set of context, Sam and me, we are part of a funny and fantastic inside Windows community, where lots of talented folks are discussing and tinkering and playing with Windows 10 betas and so on. And if you beta test anything, you usually are very well informed about something like metrics. And when we were running Alexa Prize social bot during the last competition, we had to do a lot of metric collection in a manual form. And our DevOps team had been working really hard in the last 2 months to add support for Prometheus for DeepPavlov NLP components. So when you go to DeepPavlov Library, starting with version 0.13, you can use Prometheus to grab metrics and status of all the components. And then you can bind it to Banana or whatever kind of a system you use for metric collection, and use those metrics to monitor status and quality of your DeepPavlov-based AI solution. We also shipped a couple of documentation fixes and so on. There was another big thing where if you have multiple components from DeepPavlov and they take a lot of space, we've re-architected the DeepPavlov library a little bit in such a way that you no longer have to store the same content every time. If you have multiple copies of the DeepPavlov library, they can just use the same folder or the same location for storing common stuff. And now the third part for today is about cooking. We will give a chance for Oleg to talk a little bit later again, and he will talk about form filling in Gabot. We also have intent editor. We showcased to you it last month. And something tells me that I probably can talk a little bit about it and maybe ask Sasha Dmitrievsky from our team to maybe say a couple words about it as well. So, Sasha,
I'm currently in development of this model. I'm not sure if it will be stable.
if what?
I'm not sure if the functionality now is stable because I'm in
Yeah,
development now, right now.
you don't look. So you don't have. Okay, let me talk a little bit about it then. But you folks should know that Sasha is here, and you can ask him questions after the talk. So we showcased you this demo like 1 month ago, and at the time we added support for training the model, obviously, and there is no settings interface just yet. There will be soon. And when you press the button train model, if you set a configuration file for custom location, will put the model for your intent classifier based on this intent and put it in your custom location. I think number one. Thing number two is we also have the predict. Let me check. So we will also have another endpoint called predict. The idea is the following. So imagine you running a large multi-skill AI assistant, and you have an intent classifier that is standing in front of everything else and captures intents of your users. And you already have a list of intents that you are working with, but you feel that some of the intents are recognized incorrectly, and you want to fix that. So if you want to edit your intents, or you want to add new intents or remove the existing ones, you can obviously go to the admin page. But what happens when you want to correct things? So the idea is that the system, especially if you use a custom intent catcher that is independent of this tool, which is usually useful for production of large multi-skill AI assistant systems. Every time your intent catcher detects intent, it will be able to call this API endpoint /predict and tell what kind of phrase was sent to intent catcher of yours. And then there will be also an interface. So right now I'm not able to see the interface as far as I can see. Yeah, no, actually I can see, so that's good. Predict cases, it will be a read-only table. And by the way, this is not the end user interface. So this is just where we are right now. And here you will be able to see how many times different predictions happen to user phrases set to your AI, multi-skill AI assistant. And the idea is that you will be able to go to any of these phrases, for example, and there will be an interface here to allow you to either change the prediction if the prediction was incorrect, or remove it if it was completely wrong, or keep it as you wish if you are satisfied with the prediction. So in this way, you will be able to improve your intent models over the time as more and more user data will be available to your developers and machine learning specialists. So that's the second big thing that's happening. The third thing is, as I said, we will ship support for standalone QBQA components, and you will be able to use them independently. And we also will support, add broader support for Hugging Face models. You will be able to use some of those models, hopefully in the next version of library. We're going to ship next version of library in the next month, early next month. And you will be able to add them to your DeepPavlov library components and reuse them in your systems. And now let's give Lech a chance to talk once more. and he will show you not only this, not the stuff he shipped, but the stuff that he's cooking. He is working on form filling stuff. I'm super excited about it. So Oleg?
Sure, I would probably use my screen right now.
Yes, yes, sure.
It will be a bit like.
No problem.
Well, you'll see. Okay, I probably will share the whole screen. Here it is. So what I'm building now is I'm building a form filling component, and well, I just committed, well, an hour ago, the last, hopefully last fix into this stuff. And what's the purpose of form filling component is, well, when you're having a goal-oriented bot, you probably are having an API. You're wrapping into, well, you're wrapping your API with your bot. You just want humans to interact with your system with their natural language. And well, for example, if you have a taxi ordering API, you are just having some endpoints about which taxis are available, or well, which taxis could just be available in this, well, in this city. And to know this information, you probably have to pass some how do you call it? Some slots,
yeah, slots or entities, whatever you like.
Yeah, some entities, some parameters to your API, so that it could respond properly. If you're interested in, well, I'll dive into my demo a bit later. But if you're interacting with your database, you're probably doing something like select star, where some entities have some values. So you have to pass these values you are looking for, and in order to do this, you have to perform the so-called form filling, which actually is about asking the user to provide the information you need from the user to finally make this API call. So if you, well, in my demo, I'm just, well, I was a bit into animal stuff today, so I have a demo about zoo.
And the reason why you have those foxes or dogs or whatever running over your page.
Yeah, I have them all around the laptop and in my demo tool. And I was thinking about the zoo search API. It was about I would ask it about which animal I'm interested in and in what time of the day I would like to visit this animal, and it will probably respond me with the information. Well, where should I go to find this animal? Well, right now I'm thinking this is not about zoos, it's probably about nature. Well, anyway, so I have an API which requires me to provide an information about an animal I'm interested in, about the time of the day I'm interested. Well, I am available in to just see this animal, and it will query the API and it will respond me somehow with the information stored in this API. But in order to make this API call, it has to I have to provide this information to the system. Until I satisfy its goal, it will not be able to just satisfy mine. So what I'm having here is, well, again, I have an NLU and domain and storage file and so on. But what is interesting here again, I have slots filling information. So I am showing it. I'm showing to the system that cat, dog, or fox is just an example of slot called animal, and like evening is an example of the slot called time. And well, we just saw this stuff, and it's quite similar. And what I have in my domain email is again, I'm listing my slots, and that's probably what you just saw. Again, what is interesting is this forms section. I'm telling to my goal-oriented bot that I'm interested in filling a form called zoo form. Well, the name I can pick up. Well, I can pick up any name I'm interested in. I thought the zoo form will be all right. And well, this form relies on two slots that has to be filled in order to succeed. And until these slots are filled, are provided by the user, the form will not be able to accomplish. And until the form is not accomplished, you cannot, for example, do the API call or any particular action. Well, so this is how you describe the form. You are listing the slots, and they have a type, and actually right now we support just the type from entity, and it is, entity is just from entities recognition. Well, just it relies on the slot filling information, and slot filling is based on near named entity recognition, so that's why it's called from entity. But entity is called animal, and we just saw this is about foxes, dogs, or something like that. And well, until I provided both animal and time information, it won't succeed. And let's take a look into a stories.md file. Where is it? Well, it's here. And it has some boilerplate. I wanted to just check my system works properly because I was debugging the stuff. But what is interesting is I just can provide my system with the information about form, and that's enough to make it to convert it into a wrapper around my API. So having this story, having this stories empty file, having this story, I will just force my system to ask the user for the form filling information until it provides me with this, and only when the form succeeds, only when the user provides all the needed information, I will be able to perform an API call. And let's take a look how it works. So here again, I use the zoo form because I called my form zoo form, and you can pick any name you're interested in. That's how you're binding them between stories and domain email. Let's go below and take a look into how this works. I have a couple of wrappers. This one is probably the most useful. Again, I have a reset. Well, now I don't have a wrapper. I have just a Q button that will reset my bot, hopefully. But I will greet the system with hey, and it will probably say, okay, you are starting the conversation. And I will say, hey, I wanna go to the zoo today. And it will ask me which animal I'm interested in, and I will probably tell it I'm bored. And well, again, it will ask me for the information that it needs to succeed. It won't succeed until I fill it with the proper information. So I'll say, okay, today evening. And then again, it wants to fulfill the form. It wants the form to be filled before an API call could be done. So it continues to ask me about the animal which I would like to see in the zoo, and I will say okay, I'm a big metal fan. I'm a big fan of cats. Cats. Of what does the fox say? I'm a big fan of foxes. And well, when I told to my system about both animal and time I'm interested in, it was able to perform an API call. How well it is? We have two ways to wrap these responses. As you see, at our API call is just the response name that system decided to perform. So it decided to perform an API call. And well, how you wrap this API call into an actual API call, you have two ways to do this. First one is we have the basic support of SQLite databases in our goal-oriented bot, and well, we have some documentation about this stuff. But the way to use APIs that folks are most interested, well, in our forums is how you wrap any particular API into the goal-oriented system. And this is this again is what we have in server.py. We have this database logic here. So you could you probably would be interested in giving a quick look for this stuff. But actually what's going on here is when you have, when your system has provided you with the response, you you could do anything you want. You can just query any API you want because you know the slots user provided you with, you know its intent. Well, if you have some templates, you can then wrap your system's response, your API's response into an NLG, and that's just straightforward to do. So, well, you'll probably find the server.py quite attractive. I think I won't actually scroll through the database logic because it's like 200s of lines. But well, here we have a database wrapped around. Well, we have a NoSQL database analog built on top of JSON files. So we are querying it in Python data objects manner in like dicts actually, and that's how we interact with most NoSQL databases nowadays. And if you're working with, well, if you're working with SQL databases, you probably have some ORMs that are allowing you to interact with them in a similar manner. But well, what I wanted to share with you is we are going to ship the form filling module that seems quite promising to me. Thanks, folks. Daniel, well, should I mention something else? Probably.
I don't know. I mean, if there's anything you wanted to say, the venue is yours. Otherwise, I think it's a good time for folks to share their feedback, what they would want us to focus on in the upcoming release and so on. We'll be happy to hear. And I don't know, while you're folks preparing for asking questions or saying something, I just wanted to say thanks to Alexei. Like last time, he was instrumental for us in testing, experimenting with our release. He was actually the one who caught the issue with a tutorial for Gobot, and it was fantastic to be able to go with him through the whole process and figure out what's wrong and catch it before today's community call. So Alexei, thank you very much.
De nada, as Portuguese say in Spanish, I believe. No problem. By the way, you only showed me how to change how to add a skill, how to add the intent. How to add the complete skill, or it's like the next stage. For each skill, you will have the same kind of directory and the same, basically, pack of files, right?
Sure. Oleg. So yeah, in general, yeah, Oleg is showing this stuff. Can I get access to your computer for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
You know, folks, it's the second time in my life I'm doing a demo of something on someone else's computer and vice versa.
Okay, feel free.
Luke, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today, and feel free to ask questions later in our Telegram group. By the way, folks, we have a Telegram group, so join us there if you are not yet there. We are quite active there, answer questions. So in general, if you want to add more skills to your multi-skill AI assistant, what you have to do is a couple of things. Okay, three kind of things. First, you have to copy this folder and put it in the same repository. And obviously, you have to name it differently, which goes without saying. And then you have to change your logic here. If you want to do it with Gobot, you can follow the same tutorial as the one that we showed cased here earlier today, but with different contents of NLU.md and stories.md and domain.yml to have the content you want. Next, that's not all. You obviously have to add the skill to agent and specifically to its pipeline conf.json. Here is a group called skills. It doesn't have to be a group, by the way, but in this case, we called it group. So we have to basically copy these lines, add the comma and the second name, you have to specify the right name, and you have to specify the URI here, the right port, and the API endpoint. Because you will just copy the original skill, everything will be the same, but the name and the endpoint. Finally, where you can grab the name and the endpoint. That's easy. That's the third big step. You have to go to you have to go to the root folder of your repository. You go to docker.compose.yml, and you have to add your own skill here. In this case, you can just copy and paste these lines. You have to obviously rename it. You have to provide the right name of the skill here, and you also have to specify a different port here. And after that, you will get a second goal-oriented skill that will work on a completely different kind of stuff on your multi-skill AI assistant. So that's how you can add more components to the system.
Okay, I'll try tomorrow. Yeah. I'll try tomorrow.
Try it out, and Alek, I hope you will update public version of the tutorial with that line and share a link with me and with Alexei in our Slack.
Yep, sure.
The patient's confidence sync, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
Thank you very much. So that's how you can build new things. So I've got a question. Okay, the researcher based in Slovakia can start working chatbot from University of Greece for some. Oh, I'm sure this question should not probably be said. Give a sec. Sure thing.
Daniel, do you still need an access to my laptop?
No, you're right. Stop participant sharing. Share my screen again. Okay. So, Paul, do you have any other questions to us? We'll be happy to answer your questions. I, by the way, I don't know, File, I'm not sure if you guys want to say something or not. Guys and girls, obviously. I also want to say thanks to Oleg Radchenko from Cerebrum. They're building some fascinating cyberpunk stuff. They encouraged us to experiment with some of the things with Gobot and with our DP3000. So some of the things that we are updating and showcasing in our calls is inspired by them and by other customers of ours. So just wanted to say something about that. I'm very, very thankful for all the real feedback that's coming to us from all the places. Okay, so we have like, I don't know, maybe 5 more minutes. If anybody here has questions about DeepPavlov Library, Dream, Agent, DP3000, how to build multi-skill AI assistants that can go with you to the moon, how to build your own spacesuits with DeepPavlov AI assistants inside, shoot. And everybody's shy. I'm not having any questions. Oh,
well, I'm intensely curious also about Oleg's these small animals running on the, but they look very funny. But I would ask how to get them myself, but that would be what cultural appropriation it's called, yes?
I mean, well, that's just the coolest feature that Google Colab has. It just has a dark mode, a light mode, and an animals mode. Well, available for both.
It's just the mode. I thought you just programmed it yourself or something.
No, I mean,
okay.
Well, back in like 10 years ago, there were lots of these like fillers for your screen that were living on your computers, but nowadays I know where they all gone.
Well, the fashion changed.
Let me say something else then, in addition. So as I said before, we're working on Lecture Prize 2020, and our team is really, really crazy about the stuff we're working on. I just wanted to say that goal-oriented systems, they are not the end of what could be done in this space. So there is a lot of innovation coming from us. What Oleg is working on, what we're working on with Gobot is merely the foundation for what's next for goal-oriented skills. And one of the things that is fascinating is use of speech acts, speech functions, and dialogue acts. It's not something you will see in GoBot in the coming months. It's something you will probably see by the end of Alexa Prize 2020 competition, which will end around August next year. But I just want to highlight that if you want to build AI systems today, intents and slot filling and form filling are very important components of what is the most important blocks of AI systems. But if you can understand the speech act of your people, of your users deeper, at a deeper level, then you can move deeper into understanding of what people say and adapt your systems better to the level of dialogue management that is called discourse. So that's just like something that super excites me, and that's what we're working on. Just sharing that that's a very promising direction, and some of our colleagues from other Alexa Prize competitors worked on this kind of stuff as well in the last year. We also worked on this kind of stuff last year, but there's a lot of more happening. I can't tell more. But I want to say that you will be able to play with this kind of stuff in our next version of Assistant. And I can't wait to see it shipped. Okay, thanks to everyone. Just to remind you folks, we have a Telegram group. I will give you a link right now. Copy link here, everyone in meeting. You can join us there and ask questions to our team. We will be happy to answer questions there. There's about 8 to 10 members of our organization in this chat, so you will be heard. We also have forum, which is, where is the chat window, by the way? Chat. We also have forum, which is https://forum.deepavlov.ai. So you can join us there as well. And stay tuned. Next call will not be at 6 p.m. It will be at 7 p.m. Moscow time. We want to accommodate for folks on Pacific time zone in United States. And the problem is they've got a small change from time perspective. They changed a little bit. They have now winter time, so. And this will probably also not happen in the very, very end of December. Because in December, last Thursday is going to be December 31st, which is crazy, I'm going to say. So we'll probably do it maybe on December 24th. Stay tuned. We will give you an update on when the next call is going to be. But it's not going to be on December 31st, I promise you. Okay, and with that, I wish all of you have a happy Thanksgiving Day. I really, really hope that, give a sec. It's not gonna be like this. I really, really hope that the turkey you're gonna have today, if you celebrate this holiday, is gonna be friendly and easily eatable. And see you soon. Thank you a lot, and see you soon in our chats and forums. And I wish you all a great end of week and fantastic weekends.
But the best thing I've ever seen about Thanksgiving Day was, of course, the Addams Family movie, old one. Remember Christina Ricci, the young Christina Ricci, basically destroyed the what is called the Pilgrims settlement.
Yeah. Well, I really, really hope this is not today's day is not gonna be that bad. 2020 was already really crazy for all of us. Thanks again, and see you again soon. Ciao.